Let's get started with the first lesson. Before we really get into algebra, you have to understand negative numbers and what variables are. In other words, those evil letters that show up in algebra. Usually when students first see negative numbers or letters in a math problem, they start to freak out a little bit and give up on algebra altogether. So let's debunk these myths that these are not actually evil things and they're really easy to understand. Starting with negative numbers. When you think of negative numbers, you should get used to seeing them both on a horizontal number line and on a vertical number line. That'll come in handy later when we get to graphing and inequalities. But for now, I've marked all negative numbers with red, both on the horizontal line and on the vertical line. It's helpful to think about negative numbers in one of or all three real-life examples. The first one is elevation. So if you think about climbing a mountain or climbing stairs, or say you live in a place like Colorado and you live literally a mile above sea level, roughly 6,000 feet. That's where we're talking about positive numbers. Whereas if you live in a place like New Orleans, which is actually below sea level, you're living at a negative elevation, say 20 below sea level, which would be negative 20 feet, for example, as an elevation problem. So if you think about 0 as sea level, which is the level of the ocean, anything above that is going to be a positive number, and anything below that, say if you go scuba diving, how many feet below are you going? 20 feet, 100 feet? Sounds terrifying to me, but some people like their water sports. We're dealing with negative numbers. Another real-world example of negative numbers is temperature. So if you live in a place that gets really cold in the wintertime, we've all heard of 10 below zero, 5 below zero. If the temperature on your thermometer goes below zero to say -2, there's another example of a negative number from the real world. And the third example I like to use is money, something we can all relate to. If you think about a number line, all of the positive numbers are cash in hand. Negative numbers are debt, or if you've ever overdrawn your bank account, not a fun experience, but one that you remember, you would think about negative numbers because your balance would be, say, -25 or -$50, right? So you can think about negative numbers in money in terms of debt or in terms of overdrawing your bank account. All of these examples will come in handy later in the future videos as we start to add and subtract negative numbers. To think about one of these metaphors or one of these real-world examples, keep that in your mind as we progress through the videos. Now we'll explain the letters in algebra that very few students actually enjoy, at least at first sight. So here we have a really simple equation. This is 2 + 3 = 5. Very simple addition, something we've all learned in elementary school. So let's say this was a problem that a teacher did for you and they left the paper on the desk, spilled some coffee on it, and now I can't actually see what that first number was in the equation. I see that it was some number plus 3 got me to 5. So all the letter is in algebra is a placeholder for this number that we don't know. So I've rewritten the problem down here. There's some number here, some mystery number that I don't currently know the answer to. We added 3 to it and we got an answer of 5. So this letter in algebra is called a variable, which, by the way, there's a whole deck of flashcards you can download and use to practice all of the terminology, which I will highlight in every video that you see. This is the first vocabulary word for you, variable. So variable is a fancy word for a letter in a math problem. So here I've rewritten this as x + 3 = 5. In a couple videos from now, I'll show you how to add and subtract numbers in one-step equations so that you know how to solve that in the correct way. Most students can look at this problem and say, okay, well, I know that something plus 3 is 5, and just doing it in your head, you can go, well, that's a 2, because the only thing that you can put there is a 2, so that you have 2 + 3 = 5. But for now, just get used to the idea of seeing letters in problems and recognizing that it is simply a placeholder for a number that we don't currently know the value of. I'm going to show you in the next video how to put negative numbers in the calculator, and in the next video as well, when we start multiplying and dividing negative numbers, I'll also show you how to get to the practice problems that you can download to get really used to operating with negative and positive numbers.